Hello, everyone. This is Liz. Welcome to Thursday, a very rainy Thursday. I think we're still due for some more rain, so probably need something to watch tonight. So what I'm going to do now is give recommendations for both Hulu and Amazon Prime. Figure that's the best way to go about that. So first we're going to start with Hulu. First I'm going to recommend is a movie that's actually very new. I think it just went on today or yesterday, and that is Shirley, and that is a biopic about Shirley Jackson, writer of The Lottery and a lot of other good horror fiction. So in this, she's played by Elizabeth Moss, who I think is a great actress. We all know her from Mad Men, and The Handmaid's Tale. I'm actually not a big fan of The Handmaid's Tale or her in it. I don't think that's her fault as much as it is the writing on that show, but I think she's an incredibly talented actress. She was in last year's Her Smell, which is the best movie with the worst title. And very eager to see how she interprets Shirley Jackson. And honestly, it's about time Shirley Jackson got a biopic. I mean, she's written some of the most famous stories in American horror canon. Speaking of legendary figures, up next we have Lucky, starring Harry Dean Stanton. This is actually it came out in 2017. This was the last movie that he made before he passed away in September of 2017. He actually plays a character kind of like himself, an older person who's kind of wrestling with their mortality and getting older, and the idea that there might not be that much time left. I think I like Harry Dean Stanton. I think he's always a really interesting actor to watch. I'm just sad that Paris, Texas is not streaming on any of these three services. But if you want a good Harry Dean Stanton performance, I would watch Lucky. For something a bit more fun, I'm going to recommend Kill Bill Volume 1. Love this movie. I do love Quentin Tarantino as a director. I mean, to be fair, he does kind of, I don't want to say copy because he openly acknowledges his influence like exploitation cinema, old war movies. He's not someone saying, "Hey, I'm doing this completely independent of that." He actively, tries to mimic these old movies, and for Kill Bill, he's trying to mimic like the old kung fu movies, the more stylized ones of the 1970s. And Uma Thurman plays the bride, and this is definitely her best role. Um, Amazing fight scene here. Actually, my favorite fight scene of all time, which is Uma Thurman's character versus the Crazy 88s. If you want a movie with great action set pieces and great music, as all Quentin Tarantino movies have, Kill Bill Volume 1. And the final Hulu recommendation is I'm going to recommend is Detroit. So this is a very little seen film that came out in 2017, directed by Catherine Bigelow. Probably know her for Near Dark, Zero Dark 30. She directed The Hurt Locker. She is, as of right now, the only woman to ever win Best Director at the Oscars. You know, because women keep making good movies, but somehow we just don't get nominated. Still a little sore about Greta Gerwig not getting Best Director nomination. However, I am so glad that my man Bong Joon-ho now has an Oscar. So, giveth and taketh away. So this is about the Algiers Motel incident, which happened during unrest in Detroit in 1967, and I can kind of see why not a lot of people want to see this. Number one, it is long. Number two, it is about a very harrowing situation. It was another instance of police brutality where the police were not really punished for what happened. Unarmed people were killed, and somehow nothing really came of it. But I think as of right now, it's a good movie to watch. It's a hard one to watch, but I think, sometimes we have to watch these things and we have to confront them. Because, like it or not, a lot of people do learn history from films, and I think it's always important to know that these are not history books, but they are a learning tool for people. They're like, oh, I didn't know this happened. I'm going to go find some more books or information on this. So I would definitely recommend Detroit. So on to Prime, I have some Pride Month recommendations. The first is a movie that's important for a number of reasons, groundbreaking reasons. This is called The Watermelon Woman. This came out in 1996 and was directed by a woman named Cheryl Dunye. I hope I'm saying her name right, or Dunny. She was actually born in Liberia but raised in Pennsylvania, and this is the first major film that was directed by a gay black woman. So it's a landmark in queer cinema, and it not only deals with this woman. She plays so by day she works at a video store, which I really, think what had I been born a decade older, that likely would have been my life. And by night, she is trying to put together a documentary on this woman from this like 1930s film who was simply just credited as the Watermelon Woman. And so it not only is about her love life and her friendships, it's also about her trying to research and deconstruct the way black women were portrayed in 1920s, 30s, and 40s films. And this is still a conversation that we have with the mammy archetype and whatnot. So I think it's got, many multiple angles you can look at it as. And for a while, it was out of print. So I'm actually very happy that it's on streaming. Up next, another movie on queer cinema, but it is definitely like a different take on it. This is called Pride. This is a 2014 film. There is a 2007 film called Pride, different movie. This is about, based on a true story, a 1980s miners' strike in Britain, and one of the groups that helped raise money and support for the striking miners' families were the gays and lesbians in that area. And it's about how these miners and these gay and lesbian people, you don't think they'd form an alliance, and they actually do. And I think it's definitely a very heartwarming film. It stars Bill Nighy, who is always great, Imelda Staunton, who I love. And it's a nice story about how usually you would think that these two groups would be very opposed to each other, or at the very least not relating to each other, and how they kind of find solidarity in class struggle and help each other out. Again, nice movie to watch right now. Up next is a horror hidden gem. So one of the things that I love about Prime, as I've said before, a whole lot of garbage that I spend my spare time watching. I have all these Criterion DVDs, and yet I watch these. But so Todd and I were searching for, what stupid movie could we watch and laugh at? And we picked this movie called The Nest, 1988 film about killer cockroaches. And as we're watching, we're like, okay, this actually isn't terrible. This is, the acting for most people is pretty decent. It's filmed well. There's good score. And then the final 40 minutes of the movie happen. We're like, this movie rules. So if you are looking for a good hidden gem of horror, I'd recommend this. I think there's some good acting. I like the score. I think the plot's pretty interesting. There's some great creature effect. There's some good kills. Yeah, it is better than I expected from a killer cockroach film. But we can all be surprised, can't we? And the final Prime recommendation I have is one of my favorite films of all time. It is a camp classic. It's kind of like the 80s version of Showgirls, where it was intended to be a very sincere film and became one of the best unintentional comedies of all time. And I am talking about Mommy Dearest. Even if you haven't seen this film, you know what Mommy Dearest is. It's the film based on the tell-all memoir of Joan Crawford's daughter, Christina. Faye Dunaway stars as Joan Crawford. You have many quotable moments like, no more wire hangers, clean up this mess. Tina, bring me the axe. Oh, why can't you give me the respect that people give me on the street? Because I'm not one of your fans? I can go all day. I really can. The only reason I'm not is because my partner's upstairs working. But I think that, again, one of the best unintentional comedies ever made. But I still think there are some merits here that are technically good. Stripped away from everything, Faye Dunaway's performance is great. I think she is a good Joan Crawford. And this movie actually does succeed as a Joan Crawford biopic when they're just focusing on Joan's problems in Hollywood and being considered box office poison and difficult, and what that means to be a difficult actress in that time. So there's definitely a lot of melodrama, a lot of cheese, a lot of scenes that are just funny because they're so over the top. But I do think one of the reasons this endures is because I think with a lot of these unintentionally bad movies, unless it's like The Room, is that there's still something good in there. There's something that maybe in another world this could have been a bad movie. And actually, if I could recommend trying to seek anything out, it's John Waters' commentary track for this, because he actually looks at this just as a film, and he says, this is where it succeeds, with this is where it fails, rather than just like, LOL, this is a train wreck. He gives actual critiques of this movie. But I don't know. I never get tired of watching it. I don't get tired of quoting it. But again, at the end of the day, I think there is a genuinely great Faye Dunaway performance in there. Also, I think good sets, good costuming. It's a little sad that what could have been a very good Faye Dunaway biopic became a mess. But I love mess. Alrighty, have a good day, and I will see you tomorrow with Freebie Friday.